Hello, my name is John Paul Harris. I'm the Wyoming AIM Clearinghouse Project Coordinator for the Wyoming Institute for Disabilities. I work with individuals and educators across the state of Wyoming to enhance the accessibility of devices, services, and education curriculum. Today we're going to talk about the accessibility features of Apple's desktop operating system, Mac OS X. As of today, October 29th, 2013, the most current version of Mac OS X is 10.9, referred to as Mavericks. However, I will be using Mac OS X 10.8, referred to as Mountain Lion, for this training as it is a stable release. Most of the accessibility features that I'm going to review are consistent across OS X versions 10.7 through 10.9. However, a point of difference is that the accessibility features of versions 10.7 and older are located in the Universal Access menu. Now, with version 10.8, accessibility features are located in the Accessibility menu, identical to the iOS designation used with iPads and iPhones. If you are using version 10.7 or older, the features that I will be discussing today can be found in the Universal Access menu from the System Preferences. Let's get started. This training module will go over how to use the following features in Mac OS X. Invert colors, zoom, on-screen keyboard, large text, text-to-speech, dictation and speech, and voiceover. I will discuss how to use these features to support students with print disabilities and how to integrate the use of these features with accessible instructional materials, such as large print, digital text, DAISY audio, and refreshable braille displays. In this training module, participants will be able to identify the accessibility features of Mac OS X, match accessibility features to be used with different types of accessible instructional materials, and be able to identify additional resources. As I said earlier, I will be using Mac OS X 10.8, Mountain Lion, for this training series. OS X 10.9, referred to as Mavericks, is a free download for anybody using OS X 10.5 through 10.8. This should include just about everyone using a Mac computer today. Let's review Mac OS X Accessibility menu. The Accessibility menu is where you'll find most of the accessibility features. To find the Accessibility menu, go to the Apple icon in the top left of the screen and select System Preferences. The System Preferences menu is the equivalent of Microsoft Windows Control Panel. We will select Accessibility from the System category. The Accessibility menu of OS X 10.8 looks considerably different from OS X 10.7. Specifically, the new graphical display menu options on the left-hand side. However, all the features are still there, and most of the OS X 10.8 features have more options for customization. From the left-hand graphical display menu, we can select the desired accessibility option. There's a light organization of the accessibility features into the categories of seeing, hearing, and interacting. In OS X 10.7, the categories are a little different. They're organized into seeing, hearing, keyboard, and mouse. However, more precisely, we can enable the following accessibility features just by clicking on the graphical icon. I have selected Display from the left-hand menu, and now we can enable invert colors and or use grayscale for our display. I'm going to select invert colors. The invert colors feature is useful for students with visual impairments. It can be used with large font size or zoom to make the screen more readable. We can customize the contrast feature with the enhanced contrast slider. I'm going to leave it as normal for right now. The other thing we can do from the display menu is we can increase the cursor size. This is a nice feature for students with low vision that only need minimal magnification. See my cursor icon getting larger and larger as I slide to the right. I'm going to leave that on the large setting. I'm going to open up a Word document here. Actually, let me open up this one. So it provides, the invert colors provides the classic white text on black background. There's no control over other color features or color schemes to be used. For students who need more magnification, we can enable the zoom feature from the zoom menu. Right now I'm going to turn off invert colors, but I'll leave my cursor size set to large. I will select zoom from the left-hand menu. Zoom is an interesting tool. It's controlled primarily through keyboard shortcuts to zoom. Right now I have the zoom style set to full screen. There's also the picture-in-picture, which I'll demonstrate for you. But I also want to show you the more options feature here too, which I will review. Let's do a basic zoom. I'm going to use the Option and Command key, and I will use 8 to toggle on and off. Or you can use the plus key to increase zoom step by step. And the minus key to zoom out step by step. These are very basic zoom or magnification features. What I like is we can set the zoom to our desired preference, say just about here, and we can toggle in and out of our zoom by hitting the Option, Command, and 8 key. Then I toggle back on and we'll remember my zoom setting. So that's nice if I want to move around the screen, find items, switch windows. Say if I go back to my Word document, and then when I'm ready to begin reading, I will just toggle my zoom back on with the Option, Command, and 8 key. And I can move around the screen with my cursor. Let me toggle back out of zoom. And let's go back to this More Options choice. Another feature I like is we can set our maximum zoom. Let's put it to 10. And we can set our minimum zoom, let's say to 4. And you see a square outlining the area of the screen that will be zoomed in when I toggle the zoom feature on and off. You can see here I have selected Show Preview Rectangle when zoomed out. Alright, so I set our maximum zoom to 10. So when I toggle the zoom feature on, it will highlight the area that's enclosed in the rectangle you see there in black. Actually, let me set the minimum zoom down to 0. Let me try this one more time. There we go. So I can use the Option Command plus key to zoom into that rectangle, and the Option Command dash key to zoom out. So if I move around with my cursor and I go back to the Word document I'm reading or a website, when I hit Option Command plus, I'll go zoom in right into that rectangle area. And then, of course, when I want to zoom back out, I'll hit Option Command dash. Now what I wanted to show you here is when I set the minimum zoom up to say about 4, instead of zooming all the way back out, I can set it so that when I zoom out, I only go to a magnification of 4, not all the way back down to 0. So let me show you that feature. So Option Command plus. All right, that's pretty high zoom. And the zoom area is following my cursor. It's hard to get an idea of where I am on the screen, so I can hit Option Command minus key, and it zooms out to a magnification of 4, not all the way back down to 0. So it gives me a little bit more real estate to work with to find where I am. Go back to this Word document. All right, and if I need to go back to that really high magnification, I can just do my Option Command plus key, and here I am. I say the only drawback here is when I'm reading this document is I got a big cursor in my view window, and it's set up right now to follow my cursor, but it kind of makes it difficult to read the text. However, I do like this feature of maximum zoom, minimum zoom. I'm going to toggle out of zoom completely. Let's go back to the zoom menu. There's some other options here. We can deselect show preview rectangle. That way we don't have this square rectangle all moving with our cursor, but the feature still works. As I zoom in to my maximum zoom and I zoom out to my minimum zoom of 4. Okay, I'm going to toggle zoom off again. When zoomed in, the screen image moves continuously with the pointer, or only when the pointer reaches the edge. This is a little bit more comfortable of a setting when you're moving around quite a bit. Let me show you this now with this selection here with the pointer. When we only move the zoom box when the pointer reaches the edge of the screen. So instead of getting that floaty like display when every time I move that cursor just a little bit, now my window only moves when I hit the edge here. So it's a little bit easier. Let me go back to my Word document now. I'll zoom into my maximum zoom. So it's a little bit smoother of a movement of the zoom window. Just a little bit more scrolling with the mouse now. So once again, this is a preference you will decide on your own or with the student. You definitely want to try both of these settings or even more of the settings here in the zoom menu. I'm going to select done. I said I'd show you this picture-in-picture. Okay, so now we have this picture-in-picture zoom window. Go back to a Word document here. This feature can be beneficial. It's not a favorite of mine. I prefer the other full screen zoom settings that I've reviewed so far. But for searching for an icon on the desktop, This can be a useful feature, maybe even for reading documents or email. Once again, this is a preference setting that you'll be able to decide on your own or with a student. I just wanted to show that to you. We'll go back to that full screen zoom. I also want to mention that the zoom feature is useful for educators and IEP team members needing to assess the student's use and need for screen magnification. Try this option before the school district purchases expensive screen magnification software. Also, the Wyoming Institute for Disabilities can provide accessible instructional materials in a digital text format, such as a Word document or PDF, and it can be displayed with an increased font size or viewed with the Zoom tool on a computer screen or mobile device. A new feature of OS X 10.8 is the accessibility options. I briefly reviewed some of the accessibility features here, such as display, invert colors, and the zoom feature. And I've gone to the Apple icon, and I've gone to System Preferences, and I've selected the accessibility menu. But a really nice shortcut key in Mac OS X 10.8 is the Command Option F5. Let me show you that real quick. So with that shortcut key press, I can access the accessibility options menu and turn on zoom, voiceover. I can select the invert colors feature here. Also some more items. We can enable sticky keys or enable slow keys or enable mouse keys. And if we need to get back to the full accessibility pane, we can select preferences here and we'll get back to the accessibility pane that we've been working off so far. However, if I close this down and say I'm in a text document, instead of going all the way back to the Apple icon in the top left and go into System Preferences and then the accessibility menu, say if I want to turn an accessibility feature on, I'll use my new accessibility options shortcut key of Command, Option, and F5. I can quickly turn on the features that I'm looking for. Let's try invert colors real quick. I'll say done. So it just provides some quick access to some of the accessibility tools built in to Mac OS X. I'm going to turn invert colors off for right now, and I'll select done. Next, I will demonstrate the Mac OS X on-screen keyboard. On-screen keyboards can be used with students with physical disabilities and those who have minimum finger dexterity. The student can use a pointing device, head tracker, touchpad, or switch to type using the on-screen keyboard. We can enable the on-screen keyboard from the accessibility pane. Let's go back to the Apple icon in the top left, go to System Preferences, and I will select Keyboard. Make sure you select the Keyboard tab here, and then make sure to select Show Keyboard and Character Viewers in Menu Bar. Now we can enable the on-screen keyboard from the menu bar. We will click the keyboard icon that I'm focusing on with the cursor here. And from the drop-down menu, one second. And from the drop-down menu, I will choose Show Keyboard Viewer. This is a very basic on-screen keyboard. I'm not even able to toggle the size of this on-screen keyboard, even though I'm supposed to be able to. It's set to really take over a lot of real estate on my screen. As you can see, it's probably more than 2/3 of my screen here. And I really can't minimize that size. I tried this on another Mac OS X computer and had the same problem with the on-screen keyboard. And I was using OS X 10.7. So in both OS X 10.7 and 10.8, I've had the same problem here with the on-screen keyboard. Is it takes up too much real estate. It's very basic. It doesn't have any built-in features such as word prediction or the ability to type just with the hover of the cursor. So I would not recommend the Mac OS X on-screen keyboard feature. This on-screen keyboard lacks features that are found on more user-friendly on-screen keyboards, such as Microsoft Windows built-in on-screen keyboard, which does have the word prediction and the hover, type by hovering with the cursor feature. With that said, with an on-screen keyboard, I would expect at least the following features. As I mentioned, type keys that are dwelled upon with the cursor. This feature is beneficial for students who may have difficulty using the mouse or touchpad to perform a click. And also, I'd like there to be some basic word prediction. This is a nice feature to show how usable word prediction can be without buying an expensive app an expensive app for word prediction. So it's something I'd like to see on an on-screen keyboard. So with that said, I'm going to close this on-screen keyboard down. Next, I will demonstrate how to increase the text size on your desktop in Finder window. Large text is useful for students who need minimal increase in screen text, icons, and buttons. There's no large text feature in OS X. We have to manually set the text size from the View menu right here. Changes in the View options are not global. To increase the text size for desktop items, we need to click on the desktop and then select View from the top menu again. Right now, let's just select Show View Options. And I've already got my text size set to the largest size here of 16. And I've also, the icon size I've increased to maximum size here with this slider. You can see my desktop icons there getting smaller on the right-hand side and then getting larger. You also notice that when I go down to, say, text size of 10, I'll bump that back up to 16. You'll see the text for the icons get larger there. We can change label positions. You can put them on the right. However, I like them on the bottom. We can also do a sort by, which is not necessary right now. So what I did there in a review, I clicked on the desktop. So I put focus on my desktop. And from the top menu, I selected View and went to Show View Options. Now, when I use the Finder tool, let me open a new Finder window here. I want to change the icon size and the text size in this window. So when I have a Finder window open and I have focus on my Finder window, if I go back to the View menu and once again show View Options, I can adjust the icon size again here with the slider. So now you see when I adjust the icon size with the slider, it only affects icons in the Finder window, not my desktop. Same thing here, text size, I put it to 16, but you can go as low as 10, which is difficult to read. So I'll leave it back at 16. And icon size, we can go all the way up to a very large, which may be beneficial for some students. Because we can also arrange our icons by application or what type of icon it is. Right now I'm just going to leave it at its default setting. Okay, so when I go back to the Finder window, if I maximize that, that's just about our maximum size here. See if I can pull that over just a little bit. And down. So with the increased icon size and text size, it makes it a little bit easier to navigate your operating system. So if I go to Documents, you can see my changes didn't take, but they should have. Go back to Desktop, Applications. Let me see if I can increase the icon size here and text size. So once again, I got to increase the icon size and the text size. This is what I meant. This is an example of what I meant by saying when I change view options, the settings, they're not global changes. They're very specific, and I find it actually a little bit difficult to use because on each view I have to make those changes. So when I go to List View, I have to go and change the settings here again for the view options. Or if I'm in this view, I have to go back and select text size 16. So for each display I use in the Finder tool, I have to go and reset the view options. I'm not a big fan of that. I like in Microsoft Windows how you can set the large text feature, and it's a global change across the system. Also, the iPad has the large text feature that is somewhat global. It works with it works with the home screen and mail and email and contacts and calendar and apps that are text-based in the iPad. But here with the Mac OS X, there's not really a large text feature, and having to go in one by one and change our large text in the view options is a little bit tedious. Another option we could do, choose here, if we want a larger text, let me close out this window here, is we could go back to the System Preferences, and we could go to Display, and we could adjust our resolution to a lower setting. I'm not going to adjust my resolution because I have my computer hooked up right now to the presenter system. The lower the resolution, the bigger the icon the text will get. The higher the resolution, the smaller your icons will be. If I went up here to 1920 by 1080, my screen would have a lot of real estate, but the icons would be small and the text would be small. So if I go in the opposite direction and I selected, say, an 800 by 600, I'd have larger icons on my desktop, larger text, and it'd be global. So when I open up a Word document, I have larger text. When I open up Safari, the web browser, I'd have larger text. So that's a feature you can play with there. And this is true for all systems. It's true on Microsoft Windows. The lower the resolution setting, the larger the icons and the text are. So keep that in mind. And that's just about the only option we have for large text on Mac OS X. Next, I'm going to review VoiceOver, Mac's built-in text-to-speech application. VoiceOver provides screen reading capabilities for users who are visually impaired or blind. VoiceOver is a full-featured screen reader application and is controlled with keyboard hotkeys. When using a full-featured screen reader application, there is somewhat of a learning curve, as all navigation and activities performed with keys on the keyboard. So I'm going to start VoiceOver with the shortcut key, which is Command F5.
VoiceOver on Finder, Desktop, Kingston Volume.
So I can toggle VoiceOver on and off with the Command F5.
VoiceOver off. VoiceOver on Finder, Desktop, Kingston Volume. VoiceOver off.
I can also use my accessibility options hotkey here, which is Option Command F5, and select Enable VoiceOver.
Welcome to OS 10. VoiceOver is running. Application, accept Finder, Desktop, Kingston Volume.
This saves us from having to go back to the Apple
menu 11 items.
System Preferences.
System Preferences. System Preferences window, toolbar.
Accessibility.
Accessibility features table, VoiceOver, VoiceOver image, selected.
and having to check the enable voiceover, which is a little bit more of a multi-step
You are
process.
currently on a table. To enter this table, press Finder, Desktop, Kingston, Volume.
A good way to get familiar with voiceover
You are currently on a volume.
is to use the
VoiceOver Help
Getting
menu,
Started
6
guide.
items.
now I access that with some hotkeys here. You
Unlock
can get this online.
Getting
I'm going to
started,
open it up
opening
here.
Getting Started Guide. Apple up.
VoiceOver will talk over me a little bit here as I demo. I can briefly turn off speech just by hitting the control key on my keyboard. So what I have here is a HTML document that's called VoiceOver Getting Started. This is a really good document to get familiar with VoiceOver. It talks about navigation, browsing the internet, some things I've already reviewed. One of the nice features I like here with VoiceOver when I'm in I'm on an HTML page, is I can use my VoiceOver key, which is actually the control key and the option key pressed together, and U.
Headings, 15 items.
This brings up a feature called Rotor. So instead of trying to read this document line by line from the top all the way to the bottom, I can use this Rotor tool, once again with the Control Option plus U key, and select by the headings in this document where I want to navigate to. And also the headings line up with my chapter, so I can see all heading 2s are chapters. So let's go take a look at browsing the internet. Chapter 6.
1, 2, Chapter 6. Heading Level 2 link. Chapter 6. Browsing the internet. You are currently on a heading level 1, Chapter 6. Browsing the internet. This chapter provides information about using VoiceOver to browse and navigate web pages effectively using 2 different navigation modes, tables, images.
Okay, I'm going to pause speech there real quick. So I'm navigating a web page, an HTML content here with VoiceOver. Everything I do is going to be used with my VoiceOver key, which is really the control and option key pressed together. And I can navigate this document. Let me move forward through this document just for a little bit so we can get a feel for it. So I'm going to hit my VoiceOver key and the right arrow.
Heading Level 2, Ways to browse web pages. There are several ways you can browse and navigate web pages.
This kind of reads line by line, but if I use my VoiceOver key with A, it will read continuously.
There are several ways you can browse and navigate web pages. List 12 items. You can choose a default navigation mode by Document Object Model DOM.
A nice feature there is that when VoiceOver came to a list, it announced the list and how many items were in the list. Let's continue reading here.
Internal link. Navigate web pages using DOM, or you can use the web rotor to quickly jump to links, headings, web spots, tables, and more on a web page.
So once again,
Link.
really good information in here.
You can hear a summary of a table. Internal link. End of list. Web developers can assign key.
Also, when I leave the list, it announces that I'm leaving the list. So the user gets some idea of where they are in the content area. Instead of just reading line by line, word by word, VoiceOver kind of gives us announcements as to where we are in the document. Another nice feature here is I'm going to hit my VoiceOver key plus the H key.
VoiceOver help menu, 6 items.
And I'm going to select keyboard
Unlock
help.
Keyboard help, Control Option K. Starting keyboard help. Type keys to hear their names. Hold down the VoiceOver keys while typing to hear VoiceOver commands. Press the escape key at the top left corner of the keyboard to stop help.
This is really good tool here to get familiar with VoiceOver keys. So I can use my VoiceOver keys and combine them with other keys on the keyboard to see what action would take place. So let's try, I'll use my VoiceOver keys in the
Option,
spacebar.
Control, space, perform action for item, performs the default action on the item in the VoiceOver cursor.
So VoiceOver tells me what action is performed when I use that keyboard shortcut.
Option, Control, right arrow, move right, moves the voiceover cursor right. Option, Control, A, read contents of voiceover cursor, reads the contents of the item in the voiceover cursor. Option, Control, U, open web router, brings up menu for selecting items found on the current web page.
So I hit my voiceover keys plus U, and that brings up the feature I was just talking about, the web router, which allows me to navigate a web page. But this is also a demonstration how the keys on my keyboard are really kind of taken over by VoiceOver. And that's some of the learning curve, is how to use the keyboard with the screen reader. If I was in a text document, I could type normally, but for navigation and moving between windows, really our keyboard is taken over by VoiceOver. So we have to be familiar with what actions are performed when we use our keyboard. So this is why I like this keyboard help. There's tons of options here. I'll just show a couple more here.
Option, Control, H, open voiceover help menu, brings up the general help guide for voiceover.
I use the help menu quite a bit, so every time I open up VoiceOver, the first thing I usually go to is my Control Option H. That's how I first started this demonstration.
Option, Control, semicolon, toggle control option lock on or off, locks the VO keys.
So instead of doing a lot of keyboard pressing with the VoiceOver keys, what I can do here is turn on the lock of the VO keys, and I'll show that once I get out of this keyboard help menu. That way, all I really have to do, when I have the VoiceOver keys locked, it means they're kind of always on. So then I don't have to always push Control Option plus my H key to get to the help menu. All I have to do is push H. So let's give that a try.
Escape, stopping keyboard help.
So I'm going to lock my VoiceOver keys.
Control option lock on.
So now to get to the help menu, all I'm pressing right now is the H key.
Voiceover help menu, 6 items. Online help, control option, question.
I'm using my up and down arrows to navigate the menu items here. So it makes it a little bit easier here to navigate with my keyboard. I'll go back to reading this HTML content.
Web developers can assign keyboard shortcuts called heading level 2. Here a summary of a web page. When you browse web pages using VoiceOver, you can hear a summary of web page statistics that tells you how many headings, links, tables, landmarks, live regions, and more are on the page. This information can help you assess the scope and structure of the web page and navigate in ways that best suit a web page.
So let's give that a try. Let's look at web page statistics for this web page.
You
here.
are currently on a text element inside of HTML content.
This says down here below.
To hear the statistics for the current web page, press VO Shift I. You can set an option.
So I already have my VO keys locked in. So right now I'm just going to hit Shift I, get the statistics for this web page.
Chapter 6. Browsing the internet page has 23 links, 11 headings.
So that's useful information for a student who may be blind or with a significant visual impairment to kind of get an idea of how long the document is, how many headings there are, kind of a full scope of the document. So once again, we're not reading line by line through a fairly large HTML web page here. Let's review the tools we have discussed so far. We've talked about the invert colors feature, zoom, the accessibility options menu with the shortcut key. We went over the on-screen keyboard. I showed you how to increase text size in the Finder window in the desktop. And we just did a brief review of VoiceOver. Next, I want to talk about dictation and speech. And along with that, I don't have it listed here, but I want to show you really quickly a feature called text-to-speech. Text-to-speech is somewhat similar to VoiceOver, but it's not used in the same way. So I'll go over that really quickly. It's in the same menu pane as dictation and speech. Let's go to the Apple icon. Go to System Preferences. I may mention that most of the accessibility features will be found in the accessibility choice here from the System Preferences. But for dictation and speech, we're a couple over here. It's got its own menu. It's not under accessibility. Real quickly, I'll show you what is available under the accessibility menu, just so we're not confused. Let me go back to accessibility. I want to quickly show you this accessibility feature called Speakable Items. This allows you to speak to the computer using the internal microphone or a headset with a microphone to give commands to the computer with your voice. I have tried this feature out with very little success. I hope you try it out with your Mac OS X version. It really doesn't give me the ability to train this speech recognition to my voice, and so consistently makes mistakes, or it just doesn't pick up the commands I'm giving it. But I also want to mention Speakable Items. This accessibility feature here under the accessibility menu is really only meant for commands, computer commands. And the feature I want to show you, if I go back here to the system preferences, when I'm talking about dictation and speech, the emphasis really is on dictation. With this tool, dictation and speech, I can actually write a Word document using this dictation and speech feature here. Also want to mention that's something new to OS X 10.8. So in previous versions, you cannot use speech recognition on the Mac computer for dictation. So this is the first time with OS X 10.8 Mountain Lion that we can actually do some dictation using Mac's built-in voice recognition. So I just want to highlight those differences. We can go to accessibility. We can use the speakable items. Once again, give that a try on your own time. I had very little success on the two systems I was using. You can calibrate your microphone. It still doesn't really increase the usability of this feature, so I'm really not going to talk about speakable items. I just want to show you that they are different. So let's go to dictation and speech now. Okay, very simple interface here. You can see I actually have dictation already on. It's enabled here. I have selected as on with this radio button. And I have this shortcut key here where if I press the function key twice is when I actually enable, when it actually starts listening to my voice here for dictation. Couple things to keep a note here, again, with 10.8, OS X 10.8. I do need a Wi-Fi connection here to use this feature. What's happening is when I'm speaking using my microphone and I have dictation turned on, it's actually taking my the audio file of my voice, sending it to Apple servers and processing on their end, and then sending back the render text to us, to my computer. So this actually is kind of a third party. It's not built in. This feature is not built in on 10.8. So I need this Wi-Fi connection so I can hit Apple servers to enable this feature. However, on that note, I do want to mention one of the nice features I see coming out with Mavericks OS X 10.9 is they have a feature called Enhanced Dictation, which actually allows you to use dictation without an internet connection. And there's some big advantages to this enhanced dictation feature in OS X 10.9 Mavericks. However, I'm using 10.8. I'll show you what we can do at dictation here. There are some limitations. I'll go over them real quickly. First thing I want to do is plug in my headset. Once again, I have a medium quality headset here. It's a USB headset. I like the USB connection for microphones and headsets for speech recognition. It's important to use a USB microphone with speech recognition. A USB microphone provides a clean digital signal to the speech recognition application. It's very important. Like I said, I'm using a $45 headset here from Cyber Acoustics. It's a device I've used effectively and has been successful for me and other clients that I've worked with in the past. So I got my headset plugged in. I'm going to put them on. Quickly, I want to talk about location of the microphone boom. I want to use 2 fingers, which should be about roughly an inch. And I want to use that to measure the actual location of the microphone from the bottom of my lip. So I want that microphone just about an inch away from the bottom of my lip. Don't actually want the microphone in front of my mouth. I want it off to the side. You can see when I plugged in my USB headset here, voice dictation, or the Mac OS X recognized it as a Dynex USB audio device. If I select it from this drop-down menu, I could choose the internal microphone or the line in option. The line in option is the analog RCA plug you plug in for your microphone. Once again, I would just want to make mention that a USB headset is much better, so I try to stay away from the line in if you want to use this speech and dictation effectively. All right, so I'm going to move away here from the dictation and speech pane. Let's go to this Word document I have here. I took a piece of John F. Kennedy's inaugural speech, his presidential speech. I have the actual text listed here. Let me see if I can increase this for you. I have the actual text here. What I'm going to try to do is actually use dictation and speech tool here to retype this text with voice recognition, just to see how accurate it is. And actually, this dictation feature is fairly accurate. One of the things you'll notice in this demo is there is a time limit on how long I can speak using dictation and speech. Once again, that's a limitation because my audio file has to be sent to Apple servers and it has to come back to my computer in order for it to be rendered, and they only allow, I think 30-second segments. So it'll be hard for me to get through this whole text in one take. But I'm going to use my function key and I'll hit it twice to activate. So let's give it a try here. In the long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger, period. I actually hit the function key again just to close off what I want speech recognition to send, so I'm kind of chunking it up here. So I have to keep using my function key to turn on and off here my dictation. I do not shrink from this responsibility, I welcome it, period. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation, period. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country and all who serve it, and the glow from that fire can truly light the world, period. New line. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country, period. New line. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man, period. All right. Taking a quick look at this, and for my previous trials, there really are no mistakes in this render text. I had some problems identifying the hyphen. I think it's called actually an M dash, and I was saying the word hyphen, so I didn't actually get the full M dash here. You see, I'll select it here. So instead of M dashes, I have actual hyphens in here. But this is actually, the accuracy here was very good. I think word for word it came through. I'm not seeing any mistakes. And I'm a big fan of this new dictation feature in OS X 10.8. And like I said, it only gets better in OS X 10.9 Mavericks, as it has the enhanced dictation feature where I don't need to have the internet connection to enable the dictation feature. So if you have a chance, give that a try. If you have 10.8 or if you have Mavericks, please give it a try. It's a really good tool, and I'm very impressed with the quality. I'm going to go back to the dictation and speech menu again. Let's talk about text-to-speech. System preferences, I'll select dictation and speech. And when we were here previously, I was on the dictation tab, and we had dictation enabled. I can still leave that on. Now I want to show you this text-to-speech feature that's buried within the dictation speech pane. So I can select text with my cursor and have it read back in auditory format. So I can use the system voice, Alex. I have a couple more choices here. I'm going to stick with Alex. I can adjust the speaking rate here. Let's try that out.
Most people recognize me by my voice.
Maybe increase that a little bit.
Most people recognize me by my voice.
It's a little fast, so let's bring that back down near normal. And actually, let's try another voice here. Let's try Vicky.
Isn't it nice to have a computer that will talk to you?
I'm not a big fan of that one.
Isn't it nice to have a computer that will talk to you?
The reason why I stay away from some of the other voices is because usually the best higher quality voice is already selected, which is Alex. You can tell because it has more natural sound. Let's listen to that again.
Most people recognize me by my voice.
So it's a higher quality voice. So let's stick with Alex. There's some other options here. We can announce when alerts are displayed on our computer. Announce when an application requires your attention if you want that auditory input. Right now I'm just going to select speak selected text when the key is pressed. My key to have text read back to me is going to be Option and Escape. So I'll show you that to you real quick here. Let's go back to our John F. Kennedy inaugural address. I'm going to select this text. Let's actually do the render text. This is good for a student with a reading disability or dyslexia. You spend time writing a Word document, but you're not quite sure if what you wrote sounds correct. You know, sometimes having that auditory input on what you wrote provides really good feedback on how you wrote that paragraph or a couple of paragraphs. And so this is where this tool becomes very beneficial for students with reading disabilities and learning disabilities as well. So you can kind of listen back to the text. And the reason why I chose the render text is let's give it a full listen and let's see if it was actually accurate and if it sounds right to the ear. All right, so I have that selected. I'm going to hit Control Escape. I think it was Command Escape.
The long history of the world, only a few generations have been granted the role of defending freedom in its hour of maximum danger. I do not shrink from this responsibility. I welcome it. I do not believe that any of us would exchange places with any other people or any other generation. The energy, the faith, the devotion which we bring to this endeavor will light our country, and all who serve it in the glow from that fire can truly light the world. And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man.
So this is a really nice feature here. Instead of reading line by line to check the accuracy of my text, and this, that may be difficult for some students to perform, having this auditory feedback on content they have written, or actually just to listen to content from, say, Safari, the web browser, or a Word document, or even a digital text document that the Wyoming Institute for Disability provides, say a digital text document of a textbook. This is really nice. We highlight our text and the student can use the shortcut key to have that auditory input. It's nice, maybe a little bit of reading the text as you hear the auditory input, getting that multimodal learning environment going for the student. So I wanted to demonstrate that text-to-speech feature. Once again, I don't know why it's kind of buried in the dictation and speech. I guess because it is speech. It's sitting there. But just remember, make sure to select the text-to-speech tab. And real simple, there's not many customizations you can do here. You can select your voice and the speaking right here. There are better text-to-speech applications out there. Once again, this is Mac OS X built in. So it could be good for the purposes of testing to see if this is a feature that is useful for your student before you go out and buy a full-featured text-to-speech application. Let's briefly discuss options for Braille. Mac OS X can be used with over 40 wireless Braille display devices. With a refreshable Braille display, a student can interact with text documents, online resources, email, and many more applications. With each new release of OS X, Apple keeps adding to the number of devices that are truly plug-and-play compatible with Mac OS X. That means you can take your refreshable Braille display, plug it in, and have it working automatically. No setup, no third-party drivers that have to be installed. This is a nice feature. This is a really nice commitment that Apple makes to accessibility, is providing the support for wireless Braille displays. The wireless Braille display can be Bluetooth. You can actually have wired Braille displays. They all work in a true plug-and-play fashion. I have listed here OS X currently supports plug-and-play for over 40 refreshable Braille displays. And that number increases. I think they add about 7 or 8 new devices pretty much with each new release of OS X. I don't have a Braille display to really demo here. I could bring out a Braille display, but truly finding a Braille display for a student is an involved process, and there are many vendors and manufacturers of Braille displays. Many companies will let you demo their Braille display products for 30 or 60 days. Finding a correct match is important for the student. They will be using the Braille display for a long time, maybe a couple of years while they're in the school district. So instead of demoing a Braille display device here, if you have questions about refreshable Braille displays, please contact the Wyoming Institute for Disabilities, and we can help with additional resources. Okay, let's recap our training today. We talked about the benefits of using Mac OS X accessibility features with AIM. These tools that we covered are readily available. They're built into Mac OS X. These tools can be used in a mobile environment. I'm using a laptop currently for this training. These tools can be used to assess the effectiveness of AT before purchase. And also, these tools provide students with print disabilities access to classroom instructional materials. In a pinch, I say. There's no need to go out and buy expensive software. This might be a really good starting point for a student. When they're in their classroom and they say they might need some additional supports, we could go to the built-in accessibility features of Apple. And then when we identify a need for more full-featured assistive technology, we can go out and purchase, or you can go out and purchase as the educator, AT that's going to be beneficial for the student. Also, I do want to mention again that the accessibility tools that we reviewed today here was on OS X 10.8, Mountain Lion, but a lot of these features are consistent across versions 10.7 up to 10.9. I tried to highlight some of the differences, but really a lot of them, a lot of the zoom features, invert colors, those features are all there across these different versions. I want to provide you with resources about the features we reviewed today, as well as some additional resources. A really good website to get started with when it comes to accessibility in Mac OS X is apple.com/accessibility/OS X. Also, we talked about refreshable Braille displays and the devices that are supported. I have a link here to all of the Braille wireless Braille displays supported. Let me select this link real quick. And as you can see here, it will list all of the refreshable Braille displays that are supported. We have Alva, we have the APH refreshable Braille display. Some other vendors, we have Freedom Scientific refreshable Braille displays here, GW Micro, HIMS, and Humanware. So there's quite a bit of support here for refreshable Braille displays. I wanted to show that to you real quick. Let's go to the accessibility page for Apple. Like I said, to get a really for a really good starting point when it comes to accessibility and Mac OS X, this is a great resource. Really goes over all the features, and even some features I didn't have time to talk about today that I didn't find too pertinent to our discussion, but there's a lot of features, even talking about using FaceTime with people who are hard of hearing or deaf. Talks about closed caption support now in the new OS X 10.9. There's some features here, like such as screen flash for people who are hard of hearing. When alerts come up or a new message comes in or something needs your attention, the screen will flash. So I'll let you review that. And there's many resources out there. Just try and highlight some that I found to be most useful. The last resource I want to show you is MacTuts. That name really comes from Mac Tutorials, just kind of shortens up that term. I found a really interesting article on MacTuts. If you have a chance, look this up. The link is pretty long, so I'm not going to provide it for you. But for MacTuts, there's this really good article called 50 Things You Probably Didn't Know About OS X Mavericks. So this goes into detail of how the new name came about, some of the new features that are now in 10.9. Really good article. I would have used 10.9 Mavericks for this training module, but I had heard of some issues with the OS X working with certain features, so I kind of wanted to wait till those bugs get worked out. But I'm really excited about OS X 10.9 Mavericks. There's some really good features. And the feature I talked about today with the enhanced dictation for dictation with speech recognition, I'm really excited to try that out. Hopefully you'll get a chance to try that out. And quickly, I just want to mention that the Mac OS X 10.9 Mavericks is a free download for anybody using, I think, versions 10.5 all the way up to 10.8. All right, we'll wrap up this training. My name is John Paul Harris. You can contact me at my email address, jharri42@uwyo.edu. Or you can call me at my office number, 307-766-5770. I enjoyed this training module. I hope you enjoyed it as well, and thank you for joining us.